What's the difference between Superman and Spider-Man at the gym? Superman just wants to lift the weights. Spider-Man just wants to stick to the machines. Welcome to Lassoed Loot Volume 279. Recently I've roped in a very rare error version of a recent comic book release. I'm going to share that today, along with some vintage finds, as you're probably expecting. Last week, my C2E2 2026 haul video was a little bit on the long side, so out of respect for your time, the goal is to try to keep this video a little bit shorter, although you do know your boy likes to talk, so we'll see how I do. But speaking of C2E2 2026, when I was watching the playback video from Lassoed Loot 278 last week, my C2E2 haul, I realized I inadvertently left one item out. With no disrespect to Tim Seeley, I was able to get his autograph on this Wonder Woman Steve Trevor Special one-shot from 2017. Tim Seeley was the writer of this. For those that have asked me, when you get an autograph, do you specify a color marker they need to use or placement on the book? 99% of the time the answer is no to both of those questions. But this one is an exception. I did want it signed in red, which I handed Tim a red marker, and I did ask for placement in this upper area here because I thought it would show off even better, and he was happy to accommodate my request. So Steve Trevor is a character that's as old as Wonder Woman is, but believe it or not, this is his only headlining comic book that he's ever had in his 80 plus years of being published. This came out in 2017, and it was really a tie-in to the first Wonder Woman motion picture with Gal Gadot in the starring role and Chris Pine playing Steve Trevor. So we see Wonder Woman a little bit at the very beginning of the story, and we see her just right at the end too, but overall it's a Steve Trevor centric story that I really enjoyed. It kind of set the end of the story set the option to kind of continue on with the story, but unfortunately DC never seemed to pick up on that or hasn't pulled that thread yet. Still, it was a great reread, and some of Steve's supporting characters were the same supporting characters / friends that he had in that first Wonder Woman movie, although the story is set in modern times and not in World War I. So thank you, Tim Seeley, for signing this comic book for me. I feel like my collection's even better having your autograph in it. Let's continue showing some DC comics today with the recent Superman Spider-Man one-shot, issue 1, published last month by DC Comics. This is a first printing Oliver Coipel variant. The book sold so well, which didn't surprise me, that it's getting a second printing coming out soon. This is the book that I talked about at the beginning of today's video. It's a special errored version. What the error is, and it's the reason why I have it out of its bag and board, I'm going to be very careful to show you. When you open up what should be the front cover, you get the end of the book stapled in upside down. So same deal when you flip it around to the back. What should be the end of the book when you open it up is actually the beginning of the book stapled in upside down. The easiest way to tell if it's an error version is by looking at the cover. You see a little bit of the advertisement from the back cover down the front spine, which you shouldn't see. And then on the back cover, this strip of white down the side should have been cut and not visible at all. It only seems to have affected a few copies of just the Oliver Coipel variant, and I feel very lucky to have a comic book like this in my collection. I think it adds a little flavor into the collection. I did some looking online and at some other comic stores and haven't been able to find one as of yet. Just curious of how many were out there. So have you seen this? Did you know about this variant? Now that you know about it, are you going to be hunting for it? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's cool? Because I kind of did. I did enjoy the book and enjoyed the stories. I especially liked the Tom King story, which was the second one that was more focused between MJ and Lois. That was my favorite story, and I did like the main story a lot too. I am looking forward to Marvel's version, Spider-Man Superman, that's coming out this month too. Maybe there'll be an error version of that as well. Who knows? We'll keep going with the Man of Steel. Action Comics number 489. This was published in 1978. We got a great Ross Andrew cover. Kurt Swan doing the interior art. Carrie Bates was the writer. So it's called Krypton Dies Again. And you got just this amazing cover. As a baby, he escaped the explosion that destroyed his home world, Krypton. But today, many years later, the blast catches up with Superman as Krypton dies again. So Superman's battling Braniac at the very moment in which the light of Krypton's explosion reaches Earth. And the supervillain tricks him into looking directly into the blast, and that energy goes directly into his eyes with very powerful effects. We have Supergirl and the Justice League making an appearance in this story. This book's in great condition too, and I fished it out, I think for, it was either $1 or 75 cents. It was one or the other. It was like really mega cheap. There's a backup story with the Atom, where the Atom tries to discover who is stealing mementos from the estate of the deceased comedian Joseph Rack, in a story called Where There's a Will, There's a Fray. Going into the 90s right now, we have this comic book, The Demon, issue 17 from volume 3. Alan Grant is the writer of this. Of course, you can tell by looking at the cover, if you're a movie buff, that we have a Gone with the Wind homage. And this is a tie-in to the War of the Gods. I just showed another War of the Gods tie-in in my Lassoed Loot volume 277 video just a few weeks back. So Clarion witnesses the death of Wonder Woman at the hands of Circe in this story. And he's unable to resist a chance for mischief. He banishes her soul to the Beyond region, where she meets both Etrigan and Jason Blood, but they're in opposite bodies. It's kind of interesting. I never really associate Wonder Woman and the Demon so much, but they have had a lot of connections together. I think going back to Wonder Woman Volume 1, issue 280 began a 3-issue limited, or I should say story, not a limited series, but a 3-issue storyline with Wonder Woman and the Demon. And then John Byrne used the Demon a lot in his run of Wonder Woman from Volume 2. Wonder Woman's made appearances in Demon comic books. I remember she's all over the cover of Demon issue number 32, which I showed in my Comic Book Editions 181 video. So I guess Wonder Woman and the Demon are kind of tied together. A little bit different characters that I wouldn't associate one with the other. But it's nice to have more Wonder Woman in the collection. And by the way, I want to congratulate Wonder Woman for winning the Marvel vs. March Madness contest hosted by Super Demon Wizard on Instagram. She won the entire kit and caboodle. They did all ladies for Women's History Month in the month of March. And Wonder Woman had 5 battles to claim that ultimate victory, defeating people like X-23 and Phoenix and Rogue, Storm, and then in the finals, Witchblade. Wow. So thanks to everyone who helped Wonder Woman gain some points in that fun event that Super Demon Wizard hosted on Instagram. I've got a Marvel comic book to share with you that I've been waiting to get pretty much since I started collecting. It's Fantastic Four Volume 1, Issue 183, published in 1977, with a great George Perez cover. Sal Buscema did the interior artwork. So you see on the cover it says, "This one has it all." And when they say that, they must mean the writers, because there's, I think, 6 writers in this comic book. I can't remember a comic book that wasn't like an anthology book that had so many writers in it. Bill Mantlo, Len Wein, Jim Shooter, Roger Stern, Ralph Macchio, and Roger Slifer are all writers in this. The reason that this comic book I've been looking for pretty much since I started collecting was the previous issue of Fantastic Four, 182, was the first Fantastic Four comic book I ever remember owning or reading. And it ends with a big cliffhanger with Sue Storm being thrown out of the Baxter Building window. And it was a big full-page splash, and I was like, oh my gosh, what happens, what happens, what happens? Well, it wasn't until just a couple years ago I went on the Marvel app to find out exactly what did happen, and she did get saved, spoiler, by the Impossible Man, with some prodding from Thundra and Tigra. I love that Tigra's here. I wish that she would have become an official part or an official member of the FF at some point. They end up battling a few different nemesis in this, but it feels like it's the death of Brute. But Brute ends up showing up like 26 years after this comic book was published again. More powerful and more nastier than ever. That was in Fantastic Four Unlimited issue number 3. So after all of these years of wanting to know the conclusion to the story, even though I cheated and read it online a couple years ago. I have the physical floppy now in the collection. I've kind of been in a big Fantastic Four kick since Matt AOK'd me some comic books of Fantastic Four, which I showed in Comic Book Editions Volume 274. Of course, that's Mr. Gretzky 9966. So that's kind of refueled my love for the FF. And speaking of the Fantastic Four, they headline this Comic Collector magazine, which was published in the fall of 1984. It's also issue number 5. This title didn't make it very far, made it to 10 issues. I actually have 3 of the 10 in my collection. The first time I ever knew about this magazine's existence was this issue, and I saw it on the magazine rack. Too big to fit on the spinner rack, but the spinner rack was next to the magazine rack and the cover caught my attention. I was shocked. There's a magazine about comic books? Of course I had to get it. And I love this magazine. Loved it to the point that my original copy has a detached cover and is pretty beat up. But we have a cover story on John Byrne's Fantastic Four. There's a great article on Supergirl, kind of a recap of the character from her introduction to, at that time, 1984, with some great artwork on that. Speaking of Supergirl, we're doing a Supergirl versus Wonder Woman on Fanboys Live in the Retro Review, with Signature King Tony, Silver-Haired Bronze Age Babe, and myself. The greatest DC Comics show is this Sunday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central on my YouTube channel. But what I really think is the gem of this magazine, it tells you how to sell comic books, and it has a color pictorial guide to grading. So it will show you a comic book and it will say if your comic book has these defects, it will qualify as this condition. I actually still think that that is useful to this day. It has a price guide. It has a list of comic book conventions throughout the U.S. It's just a fun, nostalgic trip. I was able to upgrade my copy for less than the original cost of cover price. Other fun things to share in today's video. Speaking of Fanboys Live and the Retro Review, I showed this as part of my book show not that long ago. Wendys has some DC Comics toys for their kids meal. So I picked up the Wonder Woman / Artemis, and it has an invisible jet in it too. And it made me all sorts of happy. And then back around Christmas time, I did 3 shorts where I was unboxing these plush blind bags from Walmart. They were holiday themed, and you could get characters like Flash, Joker, Wonder Woman, Batman, Batgirl, Harley Quinn, Superman, and Supergirl. Of course, I was looking for Wonder Woman. What I ended up getting were 2 Batgirls and a Joker. Well, my relatives in Georgia were watching my videos, and I think they were getting a kick out of seeing, they were invested, I think. Could I get a Wonder Woman? Could I pull a Wonder Woman? Well, at that time, around Christmas time, they were at their Walmart, and they just wanted to look to see if there were any at their Walmart location, and there was. But someone else must have been looking for a specific character because they found some bags that had already been opened and left in the store. So they knew what character was inside the bag. And lo and behold, they found me a few of the characters that I wanted. My cousin Rick just sent these to me. I now have a Supergirl to add into the collection with her cute little reindeer horns. I have, Signature King's going to like this one. I have a Harley, which is nice. And yes, they were able to find me a Wonder Woman. She's the easiest one to tell because she's the only one with a blue Santa hat on top. So thank you, Rick, for finding these and snatching them up and sending them my way. My collection is more complete because of you, and I certainly do appreciate it. I'm sure I went much longer than I anticipated to, but I hope if you didn't check out my C2E2 haul video from last week, like I said, a longer video, that you'll go back and watch that now. And don't forget about my short, the back issue of the week, which dropped yesterday. My friend, Steve's DC and Marvel Superstars, teamed up with Eugene Spinnerack to launch their very first ever month-long hashtag, which is Antagonist April. So to go with that hashtag, I featured in the back issue of the week Secret Wars comic book that is very prevalent in a key Doctor Doom story. So check that out as my current back issue of the week, which dropped yesterday morning on my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, a like, a heart, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Certainly do appreciate that. Love reading your comments, so drop one of those as well. I'll see you for Fanboys Live in the Retro Review this Sunday. And thank you for making it to the end of this Lassoed Loot 279 video, where the hunt never ends. See you soon. And this one I actually had. It was the first one I ever had or knew of as that.